How you doing? How you doing?
Hey.
Hey everybody, this is Sacred Healing. We're thanking you guys for being here on here tonight. We really have something great for you guys in store. Today, I have my cousin Dana with me, and we're going to be going in and talking about domestic violence, relationships, how to overcome. And she has a story, she has a testimony that she would love to tell. And I wanted to bring her on here, you guys, because I know that it would be powerful. And I know that might be some people who would really need to hear this because there's a lot of times that we go through things and we don't understand, like, how did we get here and where was the root cause and how do we overcome and what is it that we can do to heal. And this is what it's about. Sacred healing is about healing from within. I've had my own issues and obstacles that I've had to overcome, and I'm no different than my cousin of some of the things that she has went through. But this is two women wanting to share, and being transparent, and really opening up and talking about the things that have gone on in our life, and how is it that it affected us, and what were the stages that we took, to get to where we're at now. How you doing, Angela? Thank you for tuning in. But Dana's going to come on here. I don't want to take too much time because I know her story is powerful. And you guys brace yourself and be ready for something great. Dana, I'll let you have the floor. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's go into your testimony.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Dana Abreu. And I just want to come on here and share a little bit of my story. And I hope I touch some of you guys and help you guys out in any way possible. And I'll be available if you guys want to message me after this. Um, so I am a survivor of domestic violence, and it does stem down from like my childhood traumas and stuff, and a little bit of like what I've went through in my life. I was subjected to a lot of domestic violence in my life, and a little bit of other childhood traumas um, that happened in the home and stuff that I had to overcome. And I had to find God, really.
Mm-hmm.
I was addicted to substances and alcohol, and
Okay.
I would pretty much turn to those things to cover up what I was really suppressing,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of acknowledging it. And what I found is that I really had to acknowledge myself and
Yes.
not acknowledge the drugs and the fun time, and because it's not going to fill anything my soul
Mm-hmm.
needs.
Did you ever what age were you when you say that when you were started to actually experiment with the drugs? Do you
um
remember where it started to where you said, you know what, I need to suppress these feelings?
oh yeah, when I was maybe around 15, 14 years old, I was partying with my sister, honestly, and
Uh-huh.
um I would be subjected to the use of like what they were doing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and just seeing everything else go down, you know what I mean? So I
Right.
to fit in, and that's what I
And then
ended up doing.
and before you knew it, you were caught up in there. Now,
Caught
were
in it
you
so
were
bad.
you when your first domestic violence, were you married at the time, or were you dating when you first started with your first, experiencing what you
My
were doing?
first, yeah, my first domestic violence relationship was with my first child's father, and I was not expecting anything to happen out of that relationship. We were just kind of
Uh-huh.
having fun and drinking and partying, and um, he wasn't checking into probation and stuff. And so I told him that he had to go. And so he ended up strangling me, beating me up. He was sitting on me, just pounding on my chest and
Mm.
strangling me. I was fighting for my life, gouging his, like trying to gouge his eyes out and stuff like that. And I just remember passing out. And
Mhm.
when I finally came to it, he was nowhere around like the living room and stuff. So I grabbed my keys, headed out, and I left. I left that relationship, and I became pregnant. And so I told him about it, and he told me that if I were to have the baby, that he was going to kill me and the baby. And
Mm.
so I've lived in fear for both of our lives for a long time still to this day, but I overcome it, you know what I mean? Day by day. I give it to
They,
God.
and so, and you said that was with your first
Mhm.
child's father. Now, did you
Yeah.
experiencing anything anymore? Did you keep getting into relationships with the same patterns?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was like I feel like I was taught that love was tolerance, like that I
Yeah.
tolerate a lot of things in order to be loved, in order for
Hmm.
them to stay, or for me to have a healthy relationship, or for things to work out. And that wasn't the case at all. Boundaries was definitely the case. I had to set a lot of boundaries in my journey
Hmm.
and start just filling my cup with the things that I love to do and that make me happy, because happiness is a choice, and everyday choice, you know what I mean? It could be
How did you navigate during these times, and then trying to show up for your children, knowing that, you know what, I don't know, like, what could happen tomorrow. I don't know what could happen the next day of me being, abused, and not,
so so after that relationship, my son was 12 months, and I met my husband, and that was a 10-year relationship of domestic violence.
Mhm.
And I ended up drugs and alcohol through the whole thing. We didn't ever experience each other sober, and it's sad to say.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Ever, ever.
Mhm. Ever. And it was like always like, oh, drink after work, or always like to suppress something, or how we were feeling that day, or something like that,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's like it's always a suppressant. And it's like, instead of feeling it and grieving it and mourning it and going through it and feeling it
Right.
full-heartedly, it's like it was always, let me just go do this to make myself feel better, instead of like really feeling it to in order to feel better.
Now, was your at the time was your husband also, he was an avid user too?
Yes.
So that
Hmm.
didn't make it that didn't make it any more easier.
Yeah, it was just one bad decision and my bad decision, and like, so it would just like feed off of one another and stuff like that. And so um after the 10 years or whatever, I what made me leave is that I had gotten shot at by him, and almost lost my life and just left there like trash, you know what I mean, on the side of the road.
Wow.
um Not really checked on, you know what I mean? So it was like I was over here checking on this man, and I was trying to make our relationship work, and he was over there. He could have taken my life. He could have taken my life. He was
Easily.
easily emptied a clip at me. And so I had to really find it within myself, like, hey, like, I deserve better. I deserve
Hmm.
better. So I ended up leaving New Mexico. I went to Colorado, and out there I
How did
I
that work out
kind
for you?
of
How was that? I mean, I mean, what was that transition? Because you coming from a transition of, like you said, just being shot out, 10 years worth of abuse, and then now you're alone in a city that you don't normally live in, and now you're navigating being a single mother and children. I mean, that had to been some really, like, scarce
craziness.
situation here. Did you run into
Yeah,
any issues or anything that you dealt with while you're, like, trying to find yourself and healing?
for sure. For sure. So I took myself out to Colorado,
Uh huh.
and I ended up getting into another relationship, a domestic violence relationship.
Hmm.
I didn't have no one out there. He had his mom out there and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
we would drink, and I would get beat up and stuff like that. And so I ended up kicking him out, him living with his mom or whatever. And then I met one of my neighbors. Thank God for her.
Wow.
Unique. She's my girl. She's my girl. She really helped me. Sorry, I get emotional.
No, no, this is your truth. This is it. This is what we have to do to be healed.
Yeah. She really helped me navigate life.
Hmm.
She was a single mother of four,
Wow.
and she was doing it. She's another survivor, and
Hmm.
she was doing it all by herself, and she like seen me, and we clicked, and she showed me like the resources out there. There's so many resources that I didn't even know that was like out there for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not just saying me, like they're out there for us. Like
Mm-hmm.
she told me about the action centers and like the food banks. And so like I was out there and I like kind of wanted to go out there and like prove it to myself that I was capable of doing it myself and I
Right.
didn't need anybody out there. I struggled with my addiction and using cocaine and alcohol or whatever, and I ended up getting into some trouble. I ended up seeing one of my friends getting stabbed in the face, and her sister ended up smashing a car out or whatever that was already there.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended up helping. I got myself into some trouble and stuff, and so I had to bring myself back to New Mexico. But while I was up there, like I went to church. I went to church, and like I had to give myself fully to God, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went to a Christian church. I was brought up Catholic. I was brought
Mm-hmm.
up Catholic, but I went out there and I went to a Christian church, and like it just spoke to me. Like every word that was coming out of the pastor's mouth was just
Mm-hmm.
talking to me. And
Right.
so I was like, this is the way that I need to go, you know?
Right. Right.
Me too.
A- And at that time, and you know what? And I'm glad that you're at a vulnerability in your life because this is where we can really stand in our truth. And a lot of times it's hard to
Yeah.
face, but I understand that when where some of the things that that we come from, people don't. It's hard to really understand if you really never been in a situation like that, and it's hard to
Mhm.
get out of that rut if you've been in a certain lifestyle and that's all you know. And you tend,
And
like you
what
said, you
yeah.
went from one domestic to a next domestic to the next domestic. So it was similar
Mhm.
man that had the same kind of characteristics.
And it all stems from my childhood and me thinking that love was tolerance.
Yeah. And you know what? And
Mhm.
that's the thing that, it's hard when you grow up in a situation like that where it's shown to you that you
Mhm.
tolerate these behaviors.
Mhm.
This is what you
Exactly.
this is what you tolerate, and so you go in and you think, oh, this is normal. This is what you're supposed to do. We get in an argument, and this is what happens. But in your case, I mean, you said you got shot at, so
Yeah.
he was intentionally trying to take you out.
And it was like he was so intoxicated that I don't he didn't even know that it was me. So it was like if he was aiming to shoot, you know what I mean? To kill.
Yeah.
And any one of those bullets could have hit me. And so like I just had to really think about that and think about that
Hmm.
and like, hey, like I don't deserve this. I don't deserve
Hmm.
this.
And how do you navigate with your children? Because
I talk to them. Me and my kids have full communication.
that's
They
good.
have seen a lot in their life
Hmm.
and they have went through a lot in their life and I was never communicated to, you know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
like explained like what was going on. And I was always like kind of like kept in the dark and kept in the dark and brushed under the rug, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, all of this stuff needs to be acknowledged. Like
Right.
some of their behaviors were like similar, like they used to treat me similar to how they saw their dad treating me. And
Right.
so
I
um
got you.
I
Because you
had
don't
to
want them to repeat the same cycle when they would get with someone.
exactly, exactly. And so I had to navigate that with them because their adolescent minds didn't know what was going on and they thought that that was love. They thought that that was love. And so I had to teach them a different way of loving and
Hmm.
caring and talking to and communication and understanding. It's not all about communication, it's about understanding
Right.
somebody
Right.
as well in order for anything to work.
Now, how old are your children, Dana?
Huh?
How old are your sons? What are your sons
Um,
age?
so 12, 10, and 8.
So they're at that age.
Yeah,
They're
for
at
sure.
that,
And they're going through
definitely for
puberty,
sure.
and so
Yeah. And
yeah.
you have boys.
Hmm.
So
So I
you
need
got
to do
extra
this thing
dad.
right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Like, I'm happy that you're at a place of peace because it takes so much work to get to where
Mhm.
you are right now, and then just thinking the things that you have overcome and still working on through your pain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a,
it's
it's
a
a
day-to-day
daily it's
work.
a
It's
daily
every
fight.
day.
It's a daily fight, especially when you're fighting not only your pain but then addictions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? because when that pain surfaces up again, it's that same old flesh that wants to say, you know what, it's just easier for me to take a
Yeah.
hit. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to pray and I'm going to seek God
And
for.
instead of okay, so what I think that God was trying to teach me in this lesson is that, like, because I think probation is a blessing in my life. A lot of
Okay.
people think that the system, a lot of systems do, they do a lot of corrupt things. I'm not agreeing with a lot, but in my case, I think that probation was there to save me because
Okay.
I wasn't able to use substances. I would get in trouble. My kid's dad was in prison at the time, so it was me. You know what I mean? Everything fell on me, and
Mm-hmm.
so I had to pull myself out. So in order for me to be okay, I had to comply. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so during that, I found myself acknowledging a lot of the stuff that I went through in my life and my childhood, and
Wow.
addressing conversations and hard conversation, very hard conversations that could easily end a relationship or a friendship or
Right. Right.
anything, you know what I mean? And I still had to address those things in my life in order for me to really feel them. And I think that's what God really wanted me to see, like
Mm-hmm.
sober. You have to acknowledge
Sober.
it in order to go through it
Do you
and
feel now
get through
that
it.
you're sober? I mean, how does it feel like, you know what, like I found myself, you know what I'm
It
saying? Like,
feels so good. It feels so good. And my mom asked me the other day, she's like, your probation is ending. She's like, are you gonna keep it up? And I said, oh yeah. I feel so, I've never felt this in my whole entire life. This is what
wow.
I was searching for. My whole entire life was myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it was like I was searching for happiness, and oh, maybe he can make me happy. Maybe he can make me happy. Oh,
Right.
maybe this. No, it's me. Me. It's a choice to be happy, and I had to do that for myself.
You have to. You have
You
to. It's a fight. It's a fight daily to say, you know what, I choose to be happy. I choose to have peace. I choose
Mhm.
to see the value. I choose to see the worth in myself
And
because
once you find yourself, you'll
mhm,
never go back. The things that you were
no.
attracted to and allowed in your life after you set your boundaries
Mhm.
disgust you.
How do you feel about, well, because you've been through so much, how do you feel about dating? I mean, especially now that you have, I mean, this new person, Dana, who has evolved, has boundaries, does not accept certain things. I mean, what does it look like for you now to say, okay, if you were to date, is that a real fragile place in your life to like, you know?
That's something that, like, I put way at the back burner
Gotcha.
because it's like if you even talk to people nowadays, you see the unhealed version of it.
Yes. Wow.
And it's very unattractive because it's like I'm not going to tolerate that.
Uh-huh.
I didn't tolerate it with this. It's like, and I set that boundary, and so you're not going to talk to me like that. And so it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's like it's a very touchy. You find peace within yourself, and it's your serenity. And sorry, it's getting dark over here.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give women that are actually in it right now? I mean, they are literally in domestic violence. What is it, some of the things that they could do that are out there, whether it's in your state or other states? I mean, what is there some things that they, steps that they could take if it's happening, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Honestly, the first step is just choosing yourself, choosing choosing you, and saying I'm not going to do this no more. And you need to just find somebody, even a friend, a family member, just somebody close, just that you trust, you know what I mean? And hey, can I stay here for a little bit? And
mhm,
and it'll happen. You make that first choice to choose yourself, God will make a way.
right. And even with children, and it's even harder,
Oh yeah, it
you
is.
know,
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
you're right.
You are capable of doing it. You
Do
don't
you
need
remember the
nobody.
day when you packed up leaving New Mexico to Colorado with your children? I mean, like, that decision that you made, was that a scary decision, or you just
It
something
was a
that
very scary decision, and it was a very quick one. Like, I had just gotten shot at. He had just gotten locked up. It was like maybe 3 months fresh. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, if he gets out, I'm going to be in the same town.
wow.
And so I had to just, it was like my escape route. It was like I had to leave. I had to just up and pack my stuff and leave. Do it. Just do it. I
Wow.
just had to do it.
And then, do you believe that you making that move, that was a needed move for you at that
Yeah.
particular time?
Because I didn't have no family out there. Yeah, we have family
None.
in
Yeah, I
Pueblo,
know what you're talking. I
but
know what you're.
I lived in Lakewood. I lived all the way hours away. I didn't have nobody.
Wow.
And so it was just
You out
a,
there,
a crazy decision. Yeah. A
you know,
spontaneous one. There's the word.
the spontaneous one, huh?
Hmm.
But you know what? It's so crazy. Like you say, when you do look back and you think, man, I made it through this. You know what I'm saying? I went through this, and now I mean, and now I'm here
Oh,
where
through
I'm at, and
everything.
I could sit here and tell this story that what I overcame, and not long ago, here I was, like you said, just putting vices inside of me just so I could numb the
Yeah.
pain day by
Yeah.
day, just trying to get by, and not really realizing that you were just one step away of, like, being out of here.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's amazing that you talk about this, because it makes me more happy especially when it's my family, that they can overcome and they can, really blossom and stuff, because I know where it's been there, and it was funny because today, when I was on the morning show, and I was talking about what are the things that we were being influenced under, and I remember that the things that I was influenced under, but it was different pieces of my life that that reflected back, and I thought,
Yeah.
man. And what got me to that, where I got into that subject, because it was last Sunday and I was standing in line for my boot camp class, and all I remember is, normally I put my headphones on because there's like about there's like 8 lines, and each line has a group of people, and normally I'll put my headphones on, listening to music, and God put it in my spirit, you need to listen to some praise and worship music. And I was like, man, I'm trying to get high. I'm trying to get my mind right to get in there. And nope, I put it on. And the song that came on says, thank you. And my eyes were starting to water up. And I was like, man, I can't be crying in front of here. So I put my hoodie on. I put my
That's
hoodie on.
literally what happened before I hopped on. Like, I
Yes,
was listening to some crazy music, like some mainstream music or whatever. And
right.
I put on some God music, and it was like literally telling me, like, just go with the flow. You are like, let yourself feel what you're in right now, be where you're at. And I was like, wow.
Like Chantel says, good morning. Oh, good morning. But thank you for your transparency. Congratulations on your new beginnings. You are victorious, Dana, is what she said. But yeah, I remember, and I
Thank
put the
you.
hoodie on my head, and tears were just flowing down my eyes. And I put my head down a little bit so nobody could see. And I said, Lord, don't. Now, I know you don't want me to come out of here and speak to these people. Now, I know this is not what you want. And it was my life reflected. It was different scenarios in my life, from childhood to adolescence, into into my adulthood, of where, how far I've came. And now I'm standing here at 51 years old, getting ready to go on this class to do things, to that I probably wouldn't think that I was able to do at my age, but to overcome that. I actually, what was the blessing was that I was alive,
Right.
because of my
You lived through it
choices,
all.
that I made early on, for me to still have breath in my body, because I'm always saying I had two choices in life, literally two choices in life. If I didn't change, two choices in life, I was going to be dead or in prison, because of the life that I was living, literally. And nobody was like, oh, Regina, looking at you would never know. No, of course, of looking at me, like, I'm thankful that I don't look like what I've been through. But I was always telling people I had such an anger issue, because
Yeah.
of my pain was so deep and rooted. My
Mhm.
anger can make me snap within a second. I could be really cool, and then something trigger. And most of the time, people, they, oh, you triggered. My trigger was, I need to release, so I don't need to feel it. So
Yeah.
my release means I was laying hands,
Hmm.
by all means necessary. Whatever it took for me to
Yeah.
to react.
And that's how
And
I was.
I didn't like that part about me, because I knew the anger that was inside of me was a deep, evil anger, because my mind was, I'm trying to take you out. I didn't care about anything else. So I knew that I had to get a calmness inside me. And it took a lot of time until I got to that, of course. And by that time, I was probably about 19 at that time. And I started to, by that time I was married. So from uh, early on, I could, as far as I can remember, even being a kid, I was always in trouble, sweetheart. I mean, I was always fighting at school. They get the
Yeah.
calls, and here we go. Can't you just behave yourself and all this other stuff? Because I was always upset. You know what I'm saying? And then it just got worse as I got older. And then me being out on my own, I mean, you're subjected to stuff. You see stuff, you do stuff, and it just made me more. I had become survival mode. I didn't know what it was to be a feminine woman. I had to be a
Yes.
masculine woman. I didn't know what it was to be this sweet, dainty type of a woman. I always had to be in a
On
protective
survival.
mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so no matter where you were at, you had to be ready at all means necessary to defend yourself. And so I
Yeah.
didn't know how to turn that off. And I had to learn, like, Regina, your reaction doesn't always need to respond with the violence.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell people, they would call me, don't call me out of my name, because that was already a fight.
Right.
You call me the B word, okay, we ready to scrap. It wasn't, it was instant. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know how to not turn that off. Like, okay, these are just words, Regina. Why is it that you always have to feel like you have to lay hands all the time? It was the
It's like
anger.
we needed to be heard or something, or
We had
like
to be
it.
heard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I had to overcome. By the time I was 19, I was already married and I was having children. And you know what? It calmed me because I needed some calmness in my life.
Oh,
And then
for
even
sure.
navigating being married, having kids, I still had that trauma inside of me that was just like I didn't feel adequate. I felt that there was some things that I let myself down about, that I could have been a lot better than where I was, but the choices that I made, and I put it all on myself, not realizing that I had to take this path.
Right.
This is the journey that I had
Right.
to take. In order for me to be alive, I will not be here today to be a blessing and to be empowering and to be able to speak into people's
Exactly.
lives. I remember one part of my journey that I said I would go back to where I came from and give back, because when I had gotten locked up, I remember saying, this is I can't this ain't where I got to be. First of all, I'm already claustrophobic, number one, and number two, I really don't like to be around a whole lot of people, so that ain't gonna work.
Right.
And so I remember saying, if God, I don't ever want to come back to a place like this again. But once I came healed, I went back and I started ministering in there and speaking to the ladies in there. And, and because you know what, I wanted to know there's hope. Like, you're not the only one. You're
Yeah.
not the only one that has been, hooked to drugs, or alcohol, or subjected to
Exactly.
abuse, or living a criminal lifestyle. You're not the only one. We may look like we have it all together, but thanks for the grace of God that He has pulled us out. But when I was speaking to these women, you could see the pain. You could see that there was a root cause, and it
Right.
always had me where, like, you know what, I know there's something more deeper. How do we get down to this root cause for people to heal, you know and that's where I'm happy for you, like, Dana, like, that you have found your peace and your happy place to overcome all this.
Yes, exactly. I'm so glad that I found it as well, because I was living in a miserable, miserable, miserable place. And I think I really, really needed all of this in
Yes.
order for me to really find myself and my true happiness.
Yes. Well,
Like everything that happened. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on here, because I really do. I'm so happy for you. It's a blessing. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
Thank you.
support, your family. You know what I'm saying? And it just it blesses me. Now I'm gonna get emotional, because everything that I've been through in my life is not in vain. If I could be a light to my own people, then it's worth it all.
It is.
You see what I'm saying?
And you
If I
are.
could be a
You
light to my own people, then it's worth it all. That everything that I've ever been through that I can stand and be an example. And just like you can stand and be an example. It's not in vain.
Right. Girl, and your guys' morning show, oh my gosh, like I sit there and I cry. Like sometimes I'm like such in awe that I'm like aligned with you guys, and I see what you guys are talking about, and I feel the way that you guys are feeling, and I know that like I'm on the right path. Like you guys,
Yes.
you have really, really, really been a light in my life, and that's
It's a
the truth.
blessing.
That's the truth.
Angelina's on here, our other cousin. She says, stay strong, Prima. Angela says, great conversation. Nicole says, good evening, ladies. God bless y'all. You
God bless
know,
you.
we're very thankful. And this is support. Women
Yes.
on here, we're here for support. Like Dana said, if you need to reach out, DM her, myself.
Yeah.
There's a group of ladies on here. Also join us on the Empower Morning Show. This is what it's about, that we come together and we find a sacred place where we can be transparent. And we love y'all. I hate to have to get off of here, but we have to go.
Love
You
you.
should see it's getting dark over there in New Mexico. She's out in the
It
park,
is.
y'all.
It really
And
is.
trust me, the weather's different out there. It's colder out there than it is over here in Georgia.
It really
But
is.
we love y'all. Dana, I thank you,
Love you.
sweetheart.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you, baby. And hey, let's keep each other in prayer.
Yes, for sure. God bless you all.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
And hold on, we're getting ready to get out of here. We're not just going to cut you all off, but we're out of here. We love y'all.
Bye.